अथ पञ्चमोऽध्यायः सन्न्यासयोगः। अर्जुन उवाच सन्न्यासं कर्मणां कृष्ण पुनर्योगं च शंससि। यच्छ्रेय एतयोरेकं तन्मे ब्रूहि सुनिश्चितम्। श्रीभगवानुवाच सन्न्यासः कर्मयोगश्च निःश्रेयसकरावुभौ। तयोस्तु कर्म सन्न्यासः कर्मयोगो विशिष्यते। ज्ञेयः स नित्यसन्न्यासी यो न द्वेष्टि न काङ्क्षति। निर्द्वन्द्वो हि महाबाहो सुखं बन्धात् सन्न्यासं कर्मणां साङ्ख्ययोगं च शंससि। प्रवदन्ति न पण्डिता एतयोरेकं तन्मे ब्रूहि सुनिश्चितं। उभयोर् श्रीभगवानुवाच यत्साङ्ख्ययोगश्चयोगश्चैरसि गम्यते। एतयोस्तु कर्मसन्न्यासः यः पश्यति स पश्यते। ज्ञेयः स नित्यसन्न्यासी यो न द्वेष्टि न काङ्क्षति। सन्न्यासस्तु महाबाहो दुःखमाप्तुमयोगतः। योगयुक्तो मुनिर्ब्रह्म न चिरेणाधिगच्छति। योगयुक्तो विशुद्धात्मा विजितात्मा जितेन्द्रियः। सर्वभूतात्मभूतात्मा कुर्वन्नपि न लिप्यते। नैव किञ्चित् करोमीति युक्तो मन्येत तत्त्ववित्। पश्यन् शृण्वन् स्पृशन् जिघ्रन् नश्नन् गच्छन् स्वपन् श्वसन्। प्रलपन् विसृजन् गृह्णन् उन्मिषन् निमिषन्नपि। इन्द्रियाणीन्द्रियार्थेषु वर्तन्त इति धारयन्। ब्रह्मण्याधाय कर्माणि सङ्गं त्यक्त्वा करोति यः। लिप्यते न स पापेन पद्मपत्रमिवाम्भसा। कायेन मनसा बुद्ध्या केवलैरिन्द्रियैरपि। योगिनः कर्म कुर्वन्ति सङ्गं त्यक्त्वात्मशुद्धये। युक्तः कर्मफलं त्यक्त्वा शान्तिमाप्नोति नैष्ठिकीम्। अयुक्तः कामकारेण फले सक्तो निबध्यते। सर्वकर्माणि मनसा सन्न्यस्यास्ते सुखं वशी। नवद्वारे पुरे देही नैव कुर्वन्न कारयन्। न स ब्रह्मयोगयुक्तात्मा सुखमक्षयमश्नुते। ये हि संस्पर्शजा भोगा दुःखयोनय एव ते। आद्यन्तवन्तः कौन्तेय न तेषु रमते बुधः शक्नोति हैव यः सोढुम् प्राक्शरीरविमोक्षणात् कामक्रोधोद्भवम् वेगम् स युक्तः स सुखी नरः योऽन्तः सुखोऽन्तरारामस्तथान्तर्ज्योतिरेव यः स योगी ब्रह्मनिर्वाणम् ब्रह्मभूतोऽधिगच्छति लभन्ते ब्रह्मनिर्वाणम् ऋषयः क्षीणकल्मषाः छिन्नद्वैधायतात्मानः सर्वभूतहिते रताः कामक्रोधवियुक्तानाम् यतीनाम् यतचेतसाम् अभितो ब्रह्मनिर्वाणम् वर्तते विदितात्मनाम् स्पर्शान् कृत्वा बहिर्बाह्यांश्चक्षुश्चैवान्तरे भ्रुवोः प्राणापानौ समौ कृत्वा नासाभ्यन्तरचारिणौ यतेन्द्रियमनो बुद्धिर्मुनिर्मोक्षपरायणः विगतेच्छाभयक्रोधो यः सदा मुक्त एव सः भोक्तारम् यज्ञतपसाम् सर्वलोकमहेश्वरम् सुहृदम् सर्वभूतानाम् ज्ञात्वा माम् शान्तिमृच्छति ॐ तत्सदिति श्रीमद्भगवद्गीतासु उपनिषत्सु ब्रह्मविद्यायाम् योगशास्त्रे श्रीकृष्णार्जुनसंवादे सन्न्यासयोगो नाम पञ्चमोऽध्यायः।
Okay, welcome you all for today's session on the fifth chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, life lessons from Bhagavad Gita on chapter 5, Karma Yoga. We'll do the invocation prayers. Om Agnanatimirandasya Gnananjanashalakaya Chakrunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Shwapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunatanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Shavadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamsha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaliswari Vrishabhasute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Panchakalpatarubhyasya Vastudevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna. Okay. Yes. So this chapter is entitled Action in Krishna Consciousness. Because we saw in the third chapter how work is motivated by the result. That is known as Sakama Karma. The motivating force for doing any action is the result. But we explain that the result does not depend only on our effort. There are many factors which contribute to the result. So we cannot, just like an industry is there, the profit is coming not just by our contribution. There are many people who are contributing it. So therefore, we cannot claim the result. So then next is transcendental knowledge, fourth chapter, which is telling how to be detached from the result. Detached from the result doesn't mean that you don't aim for any result. Result is going to come, any action, but that should not prevent you from doing a work, because ultimately satisfaction comes from the work only. If you see the most unsatisfied or dissatisfied and the most satisfied person, the person who is most satisfied is the one who is fully engaged. Because the moment we are not engaged, our mind starts thinking and creating problems for us. So the perfect person is one who is fully engaged. So that's why we should be detached from the result. And then next stage is this chapter, which is talking about bhakti, where we are doing everything for the Supreme Lord. Why, that is going to be explained in this section. Stop share. So one time I was returning from Houston via Air France to Paris. So I was sitting in my seat, and beside my seat, it was vacant. The next seat, one passenger was there. And I was wondering how one seat can be vacant in such a international flight, because flights generally get filled. So generally we go to the toilet once in a while from the flight. So while I was attempting to go once, the passenger next to me, he said, "Look, there's a bag below, and in that bag my puppy is there. So when you're getting up from your seat, every time you go, please watch out." And he just opened the zip and showed there's a puppy inside. I was surprised. A puppy is also able to sit in the aircraft in the economy seat and travel over a continent, which means the ordinary puppies don't get such opportunities. So what was special about this puppy is he had a master. Yeah. So even a human being, if he wants to travel across the country, it's not so easy. But a puppy was able to get this advantage because he had a master. So this chapter tells how when we perform an action, the result ultimately depends on who is our master. That's why it says action in Krishna consciousness. So now Arjuna's question in this chapter is about whether he should avoid work. See, normally we try to avoid certain actions and we want to do some things. Every one of us, if you say, I don't want to do this, I would like to do this. So this is how our mentality works. That's why it says karma sannyasa. And karma yoga means he is able to do every action because he is detached from the result. Because he gets satisfaction from any work you give him, he is satisfied. So which is better? If you make up your mind that throughout my life, I will be very choosy. I will do this, I will not do this, I like this, I don't like this. If you make choices based on that, invariably you will be forced into a situation where you are don't like it. But if you change your mentality such that in any situation, I will be doing my work irrespective of the outcome, then that is known as karma yoga. So how is that possible? Are you comfortable with the volume? Okay. So which is better, renunciation of work? Normally renunciation means people think I renounce means I give up. Sacrifice means people think I give up something, I lose something. But real definition of renunciation or sannyas means you give up something lower for something higher. That is the real meaning of renunciation. Because without renunciation, you cannot exist in this world. When you are walking, for example, you put your one leg forward, and to do that, you have to remove one leg. Okay. So if you want something, you have to give up, just like you give up your money. If you want to buy something, in exchange, you have to give some money, you have to give some time, you have to give some energy. But the question is, are we really benefiting by giving up something? So, which is better, renunciation of work or working with the detachment? Uh, so here detachment means unaffected by the results of our action. So why we should be, so that will be explained. Now, as far as Arjuna is concerned, Krishna says, for you, it is not possible to avoid some work. Just like sometimes we are doing some project and the guide tells us to do something and we may not like it, but we still do it. There's an obligation that if you do like that, you may not see the benefit immediately, but some benefit is going to come. So for Arjuna, Krishna says that better than be choosy about what work you will do or not do, you accept all kinds of work, but be unaffected by the result. Renunciation and working in the spirit of renunciation are same. Some people externally they renounce. That is, they want to avoid it because they know that anyhow they will not get. But that is not very intelligent. Just like you may say, I don't want to work hard because I will not become rich. And even if I become rich, I will not be able to do some things. If you keep that as the logic, that is not very intelligent. So renunciation, but the spirit of renunciation, that is more important. As I said, renunciation means you should work for a higher purpose. But for Arjuna, working is better because premature renunciation is distressful. Yes, we have heard of the famous story, the jackal and the grapes. A jackal wanted to take some grapes from a tree and it was jumping, and finally it could not reach it. So then it said the grapes are sour. So sometimes we also do work thinking that I will enjoy. At the end of this work, I'll get some result, I will be happy. But sometimes it doesn't happen that way. Then we lose interest. Like this, keep on attempting many things. Over a period of time, we're very particular that I will do only this, I will never do some things. Or not knowing that that is also required. So next we speak about performing Nishkama Karma Yoga. It's all Sakama Karma, means the motivation for work is desire. Some people say desire. But desire and deserve is there. You may desire so many things, but if you don't have the acquired the merit for that, then how much you desire, you cannot get it. So performing Nishkama Karma Yoga that frees one from bondage. So initially if you perform Sakama Karma Yoga, then very likely that you will lose interest in the work itself. So therefore, but work is only ultimately going to give you satisfaction, not the result. Many times you think I will eat and I'll eat because it is very tasty. But at the end of the eating the tasty food, what is more important? It has given some nourishment to the body. So we have to see the real benefit of any action. It is not the just the taste of the food, but the nourishment that it is providing. So what is the bondage here? Bondage means you become very attached to the dualities. That is, if you are looking for pleasure and pain comes, then it affecting you. If you are looking for success and failure comes, then you become affected. So that is the causing the bondage. So here talking about yoga yukta. Yukta means connected. You should be connected to the supreme. Your objective should be very clear. Unless your objective is the highest, no matter how hard you work, you will never be satisfied. Self-controlled, never entangled doer and not the doer. So we should be very clear what is it I am doing, what is it I should be doing, and what others should be doing. Otherwise, we end up doing others' work and expecting the result. That is not going to happen. If you have given a job and you don't do your work, and instead you start doing others' work, and you think I have done the work, that is not going to be very intelligent. So we should clearly know what is it I can do, what I cannot do. For the supreme with the detachment, work for the supreme with the detachment, seeking purification. So ultimately, what is the purpose of any action? That is to make us intelligent. See, the result of any work is to make us more intelligent. Just like you do something physically, then it increases your intellect sometimes. So here it mentions peace. Peace means the peace comes when you are performing your prescribed duty. When you are designed to do something and you do that, deliver that, then you're most happy and most peaceful. So this chapter explains about the knowledge of the three doers. Any action which is accomplished, these three factors are very important. There should be a living person. No matter how sophisticated an instrument or a mechanism is there, unless a living person is there, that work will not be accomplished. And the second thing is the material nature. Then what is the quality of material nature? It is not conscious. So it doesn't respond, it doesn't react. A human being has a tendency to react to a situation. He has emotions, he will respond to emotions. But exact opposite to that is material nature. It just functions as per some laws. It will not violate the laws. That's also good. And the third part is the Supreme Lord. So why we need the God? Some people may say, I don't need for God, see the need for any God. But there should be a controller of both these things, the living entity as well as material nature. Because two are incompatible things. Just like milk solids are there and water is there. So what is keeping the milk solids as an emulsion in the water to produce milk? So some force is required to the proton. You see in that subatomic scale also, there are incompatible things, but they are kept together. So how is it possible? Some force is binding them. So similarly, this material nature and the living entity are totally incompatible. So therefore, we need Supreme Lord who can bring them together so that they can coexist. Because the living entity with its material nature cannot function, and material nature without the living entity also cannot function by itself. Ignorance bewilders the soul while knowledge enlightens. So what we think is sometimes very knowledgeable can put us into more problems. Sometimes we get higher and higher degrees and people are not giving us jobs. They say you're overqualified. What is the problem? I have so much experience. I have learned so much. They say, yes, very, very good, but you don't fit into this job. So why is it like that? So, so what is real knowledge and what is ignorance is also explained in this chapter. So in the conclusion, this chapter talks about liberation by focusing on the Supreme. So as I told in the beginning, if you have to go to the highest floor, the lift room has to be on the topmost floor, above the topmost floor. So then only you can go from the lower to the top. So the motivation for your thing, unless it is at a very high level, you will not be able to cross the obstacles. Every time you will face obstacles in life. Unless you have the highest goal in mind, you are not going to be successful. So here liberation means the freedom to do as you want to do. So actually the living entity can do so many things. It can accomplish so many things. How do we know that? Relative to us, we see all of us are human beings, but one is a prime minister, one is a very rich person, very famous person. Although we have the capacity, inherent capacity is the same, but how one person is able to uh, succeed and one not succeeding. So because their focus is different. So symptoms of a self-realized person. So who is a self-realized person? He is able to do what he wants to do or he should be doing. Huh? So how do we recognize such a person who's free from all these bondages? He is able to freely act. Focusing on the Supreme makes him equipoised and attain Brahman platform. So here Brahman platform means on the soul platform. The soul can do inconceivable things. Just like we saw this pandemic, many people had to leave the body and it was caused by something which we cannot even see. If someone is army, armed forces are attacking us, we can see that person. But here in this instance, we could not even see our enemy. Huh? So, so Brahman platform means you be situated on the platform of the soul, which is eternal knowledge and bliss. And it has a form which never perishes. Sense enjoyment is distressful. So what does this mean? The more you try to enjoy, the more you suffer. Any experience you take in life, supposing you like something and keep on watching that. And there are many people who have spoiled their lives just by being glued to the TV. Or let us say you think I will enjoy by eating. And by eating, finally you become diseased. Any enjoyment you see beyond limits, it becomes the cause of distress. And even if it's not within, it's within the limits also, any pleasure we get as a side effect. So therefore, sense enjoyment is adjustable. So tolerate agitations till the end of life. So how to be peaceful throughout life? If you want to be really happy throughout life, you have to tolerate something which is distracting you from the goal. And by delighting inwards. So we should get happiness from within. Ultimately, who is the most important person is ourselves. Who can give us satisfaction is ourselves. But we think that others can give us happiness, or material objects can give us happiness, or situations or positions will give me happiness, or I can make others happy. So this is our normal tendency, but ultimately everything comes from within. So if you look for happiness within, just the example is given of a deer. A deer has a musk scent from its body, but the deer goes in search for the scent throughout the forest and ultimately dies also because it is exhausted. But it doesn't know that scent is coming from its own body. So actually, happiness can come from even when you're seeing objects outside you. That Rene Descartes was the famous scientist in the 16th century. He said that whatever experience you can have with your eyes or ears or nose or tongue or skin, ultimately it is not coming because of the objects existing outside, but because of the mind. Hmm? So this realization was there much 500 years back itself. So how to attain liberation? Liberation, as I'm saying, agree. People think liberation means I get freedom, but freedom means you are free to do. You get freedom to do something which you want to do or you should be doing through. So there are two methods in the conclusion of this chapter. Krishna talks about two ways. If you want to make yourself free, there is the Ashtanga yoga process or the eightfold yoga process. So there are some regulations. For example, the way you breathe. Hmm? People who breathe less, they live longer. So one is the breath control. Then other is the sitting posture. Many ergonomics, lot of people talk about ergonomics. That is the way you sit or stand and walk, all these matter. So the asana, pranayama, then pratyahara. Ahara means food, how you consume your food. The people live longer by consuming less, but we think we will consume more and live longer. So these are all some myths. And then pratyahara, dharana, dhyana, samadhi. Then yama, niyama, do's and don'ts. There are some things you should do, something you should not do. Uh, like that, there are 8 stages by which you can gradually regulate yourself to become free to do. So, what is the benefit? They get mystic powers. And the other process is Bhakti Yoga. Why Bhakti Yoga is superior to this Ashtanga Yoga? Because the person who's helping you is the Yogeshwara. He's already mastered everything. He has already, the first process you have to work for yourself, by yourself. At the most, someone can guide you, but ultimately you only have to work. But in the Bhakti Yoga process, not only you're working, but there's someone who's helping you throughout, and he's already achieved perfection, or he's already perfect. So in the earlier chapter, Krishna talked about how to attain peace through knowledge. So many times we have some problems. We try to analyze, to understand, first of all, what is the problem. Then maybe you can think about getting a solution. So first solution to problem is knowledge. So that's why it says attaining peace by jnana or knowledge. And what is the benefit of such knowledge? You will know what to do and what not to do. Just like a person who's uneducated, he has to do all types of work. Whether he likes it or not, he has to do. But supposing you're educated, then you're given the choice of doing some things and avoiding certain things. So that's why this jnana is better than karma. Now, now in the previous chapter, third chapter, Krishna told Arjuna that you don't give up work, but you work for a higher cause. So now Arjuna is confused. That is, on the one hand, you say I should apply my knowledge to discriminate what to do and what not to do. And at the same time, you're saying you work for a higher purpose. So he thinks that whether he should renounce work, but actually Krishna is telling him to renounce the attachment to the results of the work. He's not telling him to avoid work, but to give up the mentality which is the motivating you to do the work. So that is the problem, not the work itself. But Arjuna thinks that using knowledge he can avoid some work. Work cannot be avoided. If you see in our life, we end up doing things which we never thought we will be doing. If you carefully analyze throughout our life, whole lifestyle, see, invariably at some point you think I will never do this, but you end up doing such things. So which means the world has been designed such that you have to do everything. But some people are happy to do that and some people don't like, and that's what frustrates them. So, so in this chapter, Arjuna asks Krishna about the above contradiction, and Krishna explains how renunciation and work are not opposite. So here renunciation means renunciate, seeing the benefit of an action. If supposing you don't like to do some action and someone comes and explain to you what is the benefit of that, then you feel motivated to do the same work which you initially wanted to avoid. So here Arjuna wanted to avoid this battle because he, according to him, he felt this battle is not going to help him. But then Krishna gave him some explanation as to how this battle is beneficial for everyone, not only for him. Although Arjuna thought that in this battle, some people will die and therefore they lose or I lose, this was his calculation. But when Krishna explained what is the benefit of this war, then he could peacefully do it. So any work we are doing, if someone is able to motivate us and explain to us what is the benefit of the work, then we are likely to do enjoy that work. And so, So here Karma Yoga means whatever action you are doing, if you are doing it for a higher purpose, the same action becomes a pleasurable thing. Otherwise, it becomes a source of pain. Just like a child is doing mischief, then what we do, we say, keep quiet, ask him to sit down, don't do anything. But if the child is intelligent, then we say, okay, you stop that mischief and do this. But Arjuna thought that when Krishna told him to avoid some work, why he's telling him not to do that work, he wants him to do something better. So that he could not understand. Renouncing work and work with the detachment. Please tell me definitely which is better. Is it intelligent to avoid certain works, or is it intelligent to do all types of work but with a different motivation? So this section Krishna explains how Karma Yoga is equal to but easier than sannyasa. Because initially we cannot develop that mentality. Although I am telling you that you have to change the mentality behind the work, it is often not possible. So therefore, better to do the work, but under superior guidance. Just like when the doctor is giving you some prescription or a medicine or a diet, nobody likes it. But as we gradually follow it, then we see the benefit of that. So renunciation of work, karma sannyasa, and working with the detachment are both good for liberation, but of the two, karma yoga is better. In other words, when you work with a superior, that is better than not working for anyone. So sannyasa karma yogascha nishreyasa karavubau tayostu karma sannyasa karma yoga vishishyate. Karma yoga vishishyate is saying. Instead of avoiding work, the same work if you do under superior guidance, that is going to be much better. So why it is that we have to work under a superior? Here it says, as long as the heart is not purified. Because we have so many misconceptions, we create our own ideologies as what is good for me, what is bad. Mostly we come with so many misconceptions about anything or anyone, any action. So if you say I don't like this, you will do another work that also you won't like. Then people keep on skipping jobs and relationships. So the problem is with them, not with the other person or the work they are doing. So first of all, we have to purify. So one has to work on the fruitive platform, but action in Krishna consciousness automatically helps one to escape the result of fruitive action, that one need not descend to the material platform. So if you change the objective and you change the person for whom you are doing the same action, right? Just like we change a job, you are not happy with that company, but your profile is not going to, you have not acquired any special skills. But because you change the company, you are feeling much better, although the work is the same or the skill set is the same. So, therefore, action in Krishna consciousness superior to renunciation, which entails a risk of falling. So if you are not engaged, if you are not properly engaged, supposing you are finding it difficult in some situation, you are doing the right thing, but you are not still happy, then better than to stop the work is to change the person for whom you are working, or the objective for which you are working, because you have to work anyway. There's no way, because as I said in the beginning, ultimately the satisfaction is coming from the work only and not the result. Just like you think, people think that, okay, if I work like this, I will get so much salary, so much money. But even if the money is there, how many people are happy with that? How much you can spend that money for? There's a limit on how much. Supposing you have a lot of money, can you buy and eat proportionate to that money? You cannot. Or if you can buy 10 cars with that, can you enjoy with the 10 cars or anything and 10 houses? No. How much you can enjoy is already limited by the body you are already acquired. So a karma yogi can be a true sannyasi. Nyayasa nitya sannyasi, a constant sannyasi or renunciate is one. So here, what does it mean constant sannyasi? Constant sannyasi means he is able to improve his work all the time. Hmm? Ah, as I said, sannyas doesn't mean you give up work. You change the quality of the work. A true constant sannyasi renunciates is one who neither hates nor desires the fruits of his actions. So, what is the ultimate obstacle in our life? Our attachment to the result. You make up your mind, I like this, I don't like this. That is the biggest block. You say, this fellow is my friend, this is my enemy. If you keep on judging like this, then you feel more and more frustrated only. So, neither hates nor desires the fruits of his actions. He doesn't become discouraged by the result. That So then he is able to improve the quality of this work. He is learning every result that comes. He is able to learn from that. Okay, I did like this. I got this result. So if I want a different result, how to change my work? Then again he sees what is the result. Then again he changes the work. So like this he improves rather than saying that okay, I did this, I didn't get this, so I'll stop the work. So nirdvando hi mahabaho, free from dualities. See, this duality is a relative conception. If you define this is success and this is failure, it's always relative. If you say this person is rich or poor, beautiful, ugly, healthy, sick, whatever you say, it's all relative. It's nothing like absolute. Hmm? So, so that's why it says free from dualities. Oh, mighty armed Arjuna is saying Mahabaho. Now Krishna is again and again motivating Arjuna to think and act properly. Sukam bandhat pramuchyate. He can easily overcome bondage and be liberated. Here it says Sukam bandhat pramuchyate. Pramuchyate means liberated. He is no longer choosy about the work or the result. He is feeling free to do the work without any inhibitions. So one should understand that actually nothing belongs to anyone. Actually, whatever we have from the beginning is always given to us by someone. And we are like caretakers. Just like this room doesn't belong to me, but I am using it. And I can still benefit, although it doesn't belong to me. If I use it properly, I am the benefiter. So it's not necessary that you have to own everything. If you utilize something properly, that's much better than trying to. There are some people who have so many houses. They're struggling to manage all of them. But some person may be in a tenant, has a tenant, but he's more happy than the owner because the owner is always in anxiety how to maintain the house, wish to sell, wish to buy everything. But the tenant is happy because it doesn't belong to him. The house doesn't belong to him. He is there for a purpose. As long as the purpose is served, he's happy. So then where is the question of renunciation? If something doesn't belong to me, then what is there for me to give up? Hmm? The real renunciation means how to utilize things properly. That is the real renunciation. So karma yoga and sannyasa are the same. So basically, uh, if you uh, if you are working for a higher purpose, only the ignorant say that Sankhya, analytical study of material world, or jnana, or karma, sannyasa, and yoga are different, or karma yoga. So some people think that to be successful in this world, you have to know everything about it. So that is not necessarily true. The, uh, so they want to study this world, but no matter how much you study the world, ultimately there are three doers. I explained. There is a living entity and the Supreme Lord. If you try to understand this world independent of other living entities and the Supreme Lord, then it's not going to be a proper exercise. So, performing one of these completely, one attains the results of both. One who sees both of them on the same level is actual seer. So, Karma Yoga means involves three things. There is a knowledge, object of knowledge, and the knower. The who knows about everything? Only the Supreme Lord knows about everything. We can know only little bit. And the object of knowledge also, we are trying to acquire knowledge. But doesn't mean everything that you know will help you. Many times we study in our the curriculum, some things, and later you wonder why did we read all this? Because nobody is explaining to us the objective of that. So this Karma Yoga helps us to accomplish this benefit of acquiring the knowledge. That is, you not only have the ability to do work, you are also given the knowledge, but there is someone who was always there to guide you. So two things will, some people think if I do this work, I will enjoy, or I will avoid this work and I can be happy. But both are mistaken. Uh, by performing Nishkama Karma, Jnani purifies his heart and his Jnana becomes fixed. So ultimately, the purpose of some work is to purify the consciousness. So unless you work hard on something, the just like if you eat a lot of food, but if you don't do the exercise, actually why people don't want to do exercise, it's hard work. Eating is very easy. You sit and keep on eating, no problem. But will you get benefit just by eating? There we see so many cases, the person is eating a lot, but he is not growing weight. Why? Because he is not doing the exercise which is required to burn up the food inside. That only when you do the exercise, whatever food you have consumed, that is transformed into useful energy, which grows the body. So similarly, just the knowledge is not enough. That knowledge has to be put into practice through this karma yoga. But it doesn't mean blindly you start practicing what you know. You always have to take some guidance, and that is to be this karma yoga. So basically, the purpose of any action is to improve our quality of the thoughts. So the work should help us to do better work. Right now, whatever work we are doing, is it helping me to improve making me qualified to do a better work? So yoga yukto vishuddhatma, one who works in devotion, who is a pure soul. So by working, why we do work ultimately? By doing some work, you can see something in you which you didn't even know. Sometimes we have some hidden talents, and nobody, just like Hanuman was there, he was very talented. He could jump and achieve anything. But until he was told to do that job, he didn't know that he could do it. So sometimes you may be having some talents which don't come out unless you are made to do something which will bring out the talent. Just like some food items are there. You have to put it in the fire and burn it, soak it in oil and heat it. Then only the fragrance comes out of that, or the essential thing comes out of that item. Just like that, you keep it, you won't get the essence of it. It has to be heated and fried, then only the essence of the substance comes out. So, Yoga Yukta Vishuddhatma, Vijitatma Jitendriya. So, if we work like this, he's able to control his mind and senses. What is controlling the mind and senses? Means utilizing that. God has given us so many senses. We are able to see, we are able to hear, smell, taste, and touch. So controlling doesn't mean I close my eyes, close my ears, close my mouth, and just don't move. Controlling means using, just like you have process control, instrumentation and process control, which means you are able to fine tune everything. So the mind also has to be controlled and senses have to be controlled. How is it? By working in devotion. What is devotion? Devotion means dovetailing. Dovetailing means you should know how to direct something properly. Just like a fast bowler is there, he's putting it at a very high speed. And an intelligent batsman, he just touches it and that goes to the boundary for a six. We have seen so many times. I have seen. So that is intelligence because he is able to dovetail. Uh, is dear to everyone and everyone is dear to him. So if a person, these four qualities are there, one who is working in devotion, what devotion means, what he is able to direct things properly. Whatever actions he is doing, he's able to direct it properly. And his pure soul, which means he is with clarity. He's doing whatever he's doing with clarity. Then how is he able to do? Because he has perfect control over his thinking and his action. Then such a person is liked by everyone and he likes everyone. So if you see, the most successful person is not just because of his talents or the skill set, how well he is able to cooperate with others. That's why in many job interviews, they have a technical round and then they have a group discussion. And if you see IIM or whatever IAS interview, they see how you're good as a team player. And though always working, he is never entangled. So if you work like this, then you will be capable of doing any work, and that too successfully. Yoga Yukta. So he's able to establish connection with everyone because he sees that everyone are related to one God. So just as the leaves and branches of a tree are not separate from a tree, if you see a tree, every part of the tree has some purpose. Even the leaves are there. If the leaves, supposing you have a tree which has no leaves, obviously it doesn't grow. But compared to the size of the tree, the leaf is very small. Some trees leaves are very small. But because of the trees only, the leaves only, the plant is able to absorb the sunlight, and some chemical processing is going on, and that is nourishing. So every part of the tree has a purpose. So similarly, every living entity has some purpose. You cannot discard this person as useless. This fellow is very useful. Like Duryodhana was analyzing in the beginning of the war. He was thinking that this person is most important for me, and this is second important, third important. Yes, that is there, but still, when who will be important, we cannot say. That's why in the earlier verse also says a person is able to see gold, stone, and pebbles as equal. Because you see that around the world in 80 days, one famous cartoon film used to be there. That person will carry so many things in his baggage, and the assistant is thinking, why this is all required? But the person who is carrying it, he knows that this one will be exactly the right thing for this purpose. He knows very well that by pouring water to the root of the tree, the water will be distributed to all the leaves and branches. Thus is very dear to everyone. Just like in our body, all the parts of our body are important. Sometimes doctors, they do a surgery and say this part is not required and they remove it. But later they do some research and say what is exactly the purpose of that part in the body. So now at the same time, although every part of our body is important, I cannot feed nourishment to everywhere. I have to put it only in the mouth. And when if I feed the mouth, it goes to the stomach, and then every other part of the body gets nourishment. So although everything, every action, every person is important for our life, unless you, just like you want to, you're paying taxes. Tax is one way of giving the benefits to everyone in the society. But you just don't go and give out a share of your income to everyone. You just give it the tax to the government, and government ensures that benefit goes to everyone. Similarly, if you want to benefit others, then that says by devotion to the Supreme Lord, you can get that benefit to others. So next, Krishna clarifies about who is the doer and non-doer. This you should be very clear. Here, what it means is, what is material nature doing and what I am doing. Supposing I came from my home to here. I used a vehicle, I used a car, but car is a product of material nature. It has no consciousness, but it was driven by me. So as a combination of me and that vehicle, I could come here. So, but that is nevertheless different from me. So I should know who is the doer and who is the non-doer. Actually, the car is not the doer, in the sense that unless I drive it, it will not move. But at the same time, I cannot function like the car. What it can do, I cannot do. A knower of truth, a Nishkama Karma yogi, although seeing, hearing, touching, smelling, tasting, moving about, sleeping, and breathing, always knows that only the material senses are interacting with their objects and that he is aloof from them. So whenever I see something, smell, taste, touch, and hear, whatever experiences I have in life, it is actually, I am observing something. Again, the same, what I told in the beginning. Rene Descartes is a 16th century scientist before modern science began, before the motivation for modern science and technology came. He analyzed that whatever experiences I have, they have two parts. Res extensa means everything I see around us, it is spread out in space and time. That is one experience. But another experience is unextended thinking substance, that is the mind. So whatever I experience have, it is a combination of two things. One is interaction of these objects in the world, material world, and the interaction of the mind with that experience. Einstein also said, when I'm not looking, is the moon existing only when I look at it? Is it whatever experience I have is a combination of the living entity and material nature? Unless these two combine, I cannot have an experience. Just like a dead person is there. Around him, everything is happening, but can he experience it? He cannot, because the soul is not there. So any experience has to be a combination of this living entity and the material nature. So the soul is not the independent doer of action. The other doers who work in coordination with the soul are described in the next section. So does it mean that the living entity is there and material nature is there, then work happens automatically? Because living entities are there everywhere, like this. Germs are there, microbes are there, but they cannot do some things which I can do. Same soul, they are also soul, I am soul. Or among you also, one person can do something which the other person cannot do. Although we have almost the same, just like I give some instrument to two of you, both of you cannot bring out the best in the same thing. Supposing an instrument, a musical instrument is there, I give to two people, same instrument, but one person is able to do better than the other. So which means it's not only material nature, not only living entity, there's one more force, and that is the sanction of the Supreme Lord, which will be explained next. So Brahman Adhaya Karmani, one who offers the results of his actions to Supreme. So a person is very clear that if something is being accomplished, these three factors are there. So I cannot claim to be the only doer. The living entity, I am there, material nature is there, and there's also the Supreme Soul. While performing his duties without attachment. So he knows that this is my limitation. I have to work within that limitation. Then I will be happy. If I try to change the world around me, if I try to take the position of God, or if I try to take the position of another living entity, that is never going to be possible. I should be know what is exactly my role and responsibility, what is my capacity. So is unaffected by sins in his actions. What is a sin? Sin means when you don't do, you're not able to do what you have to do or what you can be doing. That is said to be a sin. No? Dharma, against our dharma. Dharma means my nature. I have some abilities, but when I'm not able to do like that, then it is said to be a sin. So because it will always be playing in your mind, I wanted to do this, I could not do it. I should have done the like this, or it should have happened like this. That's always bothering us, isn't it? But if you feel, yes, I did exactly what I was supposed to do, then that gives peace. So just as the lotus leaf is untouched by water. So the analogy is given, a lotus is said to be the most beautiful flower. If you carefully examine a lotus and compare it with other flowers, the design of the lotus is so nice, intricate, very beautiful. But how does it get such beauty? Because it is absorbing the sunlight. From the sunlight, it gets it. It is able, it has the science or technology in it. By looking at the sun, it is able to grow so beautifully. But at the same time, if you see, the lotus is growing in dirty water because the water in which the lotus is growing is stagnant water. When water is stagnant, naturally becomes dirty. The water is flowing, the dirt gets washed away. So this lotus is on dirty water because that water has to be stagnant. But at the same time, it is beautiful because it is getting its nourishment from the sun. So we may be in this world and there may be so many good, bad, ugly things in this world. But if you keep our focus on the what is really sustaining me, supposing you get disturbed by so many people, then you come back home and you see the face of your mother or father or wife or children, and you feel relaxed. Okay, although I don't like this work, But when I come back home and I see these people, I feel it is worth it. So similarly, the lotus is able to be remain beautiful because it is focused on the sun, although it is living in dirty water. Then one more protection is there. The lotus flower is surrounded by a lotus leaf, and that leaf has the property that any water falls on that, it rolls off because of the surface tension or whatever. The water immediately forms a spherical shape and easily rolls off. So that is how we should live in this world. So one should seek purification. So the karma yogis act with body, mind, intelligence, and the senses without attachment. So we have to, whatever facilities have been given to us in this world, we have to utilize it to the best and not complain. We have, there are many examples of people who have been very successful, even though so many discouraging situations. They maybe have been handicapped or some shortcoming would have been there in their family, whatever, but they rose up to very great heights. So here it says, acts with body, mind, intelligence, and the senses. Although the same things can create problems for us, they learn to utilize these things properly only for the purpose of purification. Ah. So just like you take soap is produced from the earth only, and all the dirt on our body is also produced from earth. But the same earth you take from the soap you take from the earth and process it and use it to clean the dirt. So similarly, this world, some things are contaminating us. Whatever we do, we get after the end of the day, we become so disturbed. But there is a way to purify ourselves, we remain disinfected. So the summary is, Karma Yogi attains unadulterated peace by giving up results of all activities. So whatever work he does, he gets some result. He knows how to reinvest. If you see the most successful people, there was one plague in Surat and Gujarat, or during the British time, there was a plague. And as you know, a plague is caused by dead rats. You know, the rats are there, they go to the garbage and they eat something and they die there. And then that becomes a source of infection. So in the British time, there was a plague, and because this was caused by the rats, the government made an announcement. Whoever brings a dead rat, he will be given 2 paise. And there was one person who gathered all these dead rats and submitted. Who would like to go and gather dead rats? But he was intelligent. He took those dead rats and submitted to the government, and government promptly gave him the 2 paisa or whatever. And then he invested that again and then reinvested like that he became a very rich person. So there are many examples that Mickey Mouse, Donald, what is that? Who is the inventor of Mickey Mouse? Okay. So he saw a mouse and a cat or something, and that gave him idea that Walt Disney films are there. He was actually a pauper, but in that frustration, he saw maybe some cat running behind a mouse or something that gave him the idea of Mickey Mouse. So like that, the uh, so here, what is the difference between a karma yogi and a karma? Because karma. So same analogy. Supposing you are I give you a weapon, or a rifle or something, or a knife. But if you're working for the navy or armed forces, and if you use that gun properly, then you're getting a reward. But let us say you're using that rifle and part of an extremist organization, then you're a criminal. The action is the same, the object is the same. Both of us are using rifle, but this fellow is shooting, that fellow is also shooting. But one is working for the government and is getting a reward, another is working for the extremist organization and is getting punishment. So, so one should know that there are 3 doers. Any action, if you have to accomplish, you need these 3 things. You need the help of material nature, and we don't like this hall is there, I don't own this hall. That I should be very clear. And second thing is, there's a living entity, like you are there, you have audience, you have come, you are contributing to this program, I am there, these are all living entities. But then above that is the Supreme Lord. These three are there, then only you can accomplish any action. So this we should be very clear. If you say, no, I don't need God, all of us are there, material nature is there, let us just get together, that also doesn't happen. The time and again people have tried this, but it never happens. So then what is my role? Okay, I understand I cannot do everything by myself. I'm not the only doer. Then what is it I should be doing? So when so we have only a choice in terms of what we desire. Only that we have the choice. Actually, we are thinking I desired it and I did it and got the result, but it's not the case. Carefully, if you analyze, only we have the choice to desire something. Now, depending on what I desire, either I enjoy or suffer. The same activity, you think it will give me pleasure. Two people attempt the same work. One person is miserable, another person is happy. Why? Because you have to analyze what was the desire. Just like any criminal act has happened. The lawyer tries to find out, the judge wants to find out what was the motivation behind that. Supposing you killed someone in self-defense, then you are pardoned. But if you deliberately kill that person, then you are punished. Both are killing only. One person killed the other person because out of self-defense and he is pardoned. Another person killed him when it was not required, then he is punished. So the desire only is the cause for our happiness or suffering. So unless we change the desire, no matter how much work you do, for whom you do, it is not going to change the quality of your life. So the conclusion is, we have to act according to our nature. Already we have acquired some body with our mind and senses and intelligence. We have to make the best use of it. Then that is permitted. Just like a tiger is there, the tiger eats something, nobody can punish the tiger. Why did you kill and eat? But if you kill and eat, then it's a punishable offense because it is acting according to its nature. A dog is there, it is crossing the road without following the signal. Nobody can find the dog. But if you walk against the signal, then you're punishable because it is acting according to its nature, nothing, no problem. But if you go against your nature, then you have to be punished. So then what is the question of the role of Lord? He is the one who is bringing together this nature, the living entity. And ultimately he is sanctioning. Just like if you have hydrogen and oxygen, doesn't mean immediately water is produced. You need some conditions. Under those conditions, only hydrogen and oxygen give you water. So similarly, just because the living entity is there, material nature is there, it is not that you will be successful. The sanction of the Supreme Lord is required. Then so the moment we desire, the Supreme Lord is sanctioning. Just like if I wanted to do a class here, it's not that you wanted to attend the class and I came and gave the class and no, I took permission. I had to seek the permission of the dean students and then he permits me. And you're also permitted to come and sit here. I am permitted to come and talk here. So although we don't see him, he's not here in the picture. But an intelligent person knows that it's not just because I wanted to give a class or just because you wanted to hear it's happening. There is a person who's superior to both of us and he is allowing it. So, but if you don't know this, every time we'll be frustrated that I'm trying to do something, everything is there, but still I'm not able to do. So this is the chart showing here. We have the soul. What is the soul doing? Only desiring. That's all. Just like the child is there, it wants to drive a car, but it cannot drive the car. So then what the father does, he makes the child sit on his lap and the father is driving the car and the child is holding the steering and his legs also won't reach up to the pedals, but he is getting pleasure thinking, oh, I'm really driving, but actually he's not driving. So similarly, as a soul, we are only desiring. And then who knows that desire? The super soul within our heart, he knows that I have a desire. And then what he does, he sanctions to material nature. he allows material nature to fulfill the desire. But I am thinking that material nature is supplying my desires. But we don't understand that there is a sanction, and because of that sanction, only material nature is supplying me. Hmm? If I have to do this program outside, I have to pay money, and you also have to bear the cost of that program. But because someone is giving us this facility, we are able to do it. Similarly, it's not that I desire everything I desire, it will be fulfilled. My desire has to be understood by the Lord, and He sanctions to material nature, and that material nature fulfilling. So this is the so the more a person is able to think like this, there are so many things we don't see. Just like some medicines are there, they work wonders. Some jewels are there, diamonds are there. They have some properties. They can cure some diseases, which no medicine can do. Hmm? So how we cannot explain, but they have that property. Hmm? So like that, but we have to accept that it has that quality, something special. Similarly, we may not be able to perceive God in everything, but at least a sensible person can come to that conclusion that it's if it's not just because a living entity is there and the material nature is there that things are happening, there's something superior. So then tad buddhayas tad atmanas tannishta tad parana. When once this is a very important verse. So before this it says a yogi can attain liberation by fixing his mind on the Supreme Lord. So ultimately the mind needs an object of meditation. You may be an atheist also, doesn't matter, but at least you are focused and the mind should be proper. So without that, you cannot be successful. Even if you are a devotee, if your mind is not fixed on something, you cannot accomplish anything. A yogi can attain liberation by fixing his mind on the Supreme. That involves tolerating temptations of the material senses and rewriting one's pressure seeking propensity from matter to spirit, from outwards to inwards. So we should know what is temporary and what is permanent. Some temporary things we have to give importance, but not undue importance. We should know what is permanent, what is temporary, and then what is it I can get from outside and what I can get from inside. Supposing charity begins at home, they say. If you want to do good to others, before you try to do good to others, try to do good to the people who are really near and dear to you, isn't it? So, so the must thing which is most dear to us is only our soul. Yeah. Tadbuddhayas tadatmanas tanishta. So this verse very important. It says four things. When one's intelligence, mind, faith, and refuge are fixed in me, the Supreme. So these four things are going to really help us. The mind, our mind has to be help us. The mind is the friend or the enemy. So we have to take our mind into confidence. Then we have to use our intelligence. Intelligence is the mind gives us many options. Just like you're writing an objective type exam, it gives us so many choices. And then, but you have to choose the right one. So mind will give you many options, no harm. It has to give. Just like you do a brainstorming session, everyone is allowed to give whatever he thinks is correct. We're not judging anyone at that stage. But then later you try to analyze. So similarly, mind by nature, it gives us many options, but then you have to use the intelligence and then faith. Although intelligence also will give you many options. Sometimes you see intelligent people also are arguing like anything. Okay. But then they have to put their faith in something. Supposing a judge is there, two lawyers are there, both are arguing intelligently. One lawyer is arguing based on some law codes, another person is also arguing based on the law books. But then the judge has to be, they have to put faith in the judge. And the umpire is there. You have playing cricket or something, you have put a faith in the umpire. So we have to faith and refuge. Uh, Faith alone is not enough. You say, I have got faith in God. In God and we trust. The American dollar, you see, it is written there, in God we trust. And now the present Americans, they're saying you should remove that. This statement should not be there. In God we trust is not there. So which means they don't really believe in what they say. There are many times you say something and you don't believe it, really believe it. So faith and refuge, which means just blind faith is not required. You should be really convinced about that. So if these three, four things are there in the Supreme, one becomes cleansed of misgivings. What is misgiving means? Doubts. All the time you're getting some doubt. First you want to do something, then you start rethinking whether I did the right, wrong. So as long as you have doubts, you can never progress. So why these doubts are coming? Because the mind, faith, the intelligence, faith and refuge are not in the Supreme. You have not put that in the right place. Supposing you have some money and you have put the money in the bank, but all the time some news is coming that this bank is going to close down or some malpractice is happening, then you will always be in anxiety. So similarly, if your mind, intelligence, faith, and refuge, you don't put it in the right person, then constantly you'll be getting doubts, but through knowledge and thus proceeds on the path of liberation. So if you put your faith in the higher, just like we have satellites are there. The satellites, the higher the satellite, its range is much bigger. Hmm? It can cover a much larger distances. Even oil, where oil is, we cannot see. But from a height, you're able to see because that wave particle duality is there. Every object, it has a wave nature also. So these waves, they're able to pick up at a high altitude and they say exactly oil is here. Huh? Some birds are there, they fly at very great altitude, but they're able to see exactly where their prey is. Some birds are simply running or flying around here and there. They don't get food. But some birds are there, they go very high. They're exactly able to see where the food is there and they come down at very great speed and catch it. So likewise, uh, what is the benefit of fixing your faith in the highest? That explained here, next verse. Vidya Vinaya Sampanne, Brahmane Gavihastini, Shuni Cheva Shopakecha, Pandita Samadarshina. Here it says the word Pandita. Pandita means learned. Who's the most learned person? He is able to respect everyone because every person is in different levels. We don't discourage anyone or unduly encourage anyone. We should know, give respect to every individual. If you are able to do that, then you are the most successful person. So the humble sage, by virtue of true knowledge, sees a learned Brahmana, a cow, elephant, dog eater with equal vision. So how he is able to see everyone equally? Because he knows that that person in that position because he has done something and has come. He is not just whimsically is not in that position. He has some qualification. That's why he is in that position. For you, it may be insignificant, but he is there because he has something in him. So this he is able to see. Not only that, even if there may be some defect in some person, and but super soul is there with everyone. That we should have the faith that there are good in everything and bad in everyone. But even though the good is there because he has worked hard some way and got that good, but bad is there, and if you try to correct it, it may not be possible. So who will correct it then? You should recognize the super. Supposing you want to punish someone, you cannot punish him directly. You have to take him to the police, and the police decides or the judge decides what punishment has to be given. So you are so like that. Some things you cannot change in another person. That you should accept an authority. So if you reach this stage, that you are able to see that each soul are potentially the same. All of us have equal potential to be successful in any way. But still some people are successful, some behind. Just like in a train, you see in the train, some person is in the first compartment, that is first class compartment, someone is in the third class compartment. But nevertheless, both of them are going to the same destination. Hmm? Although they had different buying power. Some person had the money to buy first class, some person had the money to buy only the third class. But nevertheless, they are going to the same destination. So similarly, uh, for all of us, the destination is the same, but we may approach that in different ways. So if you come to this platform, it doesn't rejoice something pleasant, doesn't lament for something unpleasant, and fixed intelligence. So this way, the dualities will not affect us. There's duality all around us. Uh, But that we can learn to benefit from variety is the mother of enjoyment. A unity in diversity, they say. There must be differences, but at the same time, we can learn to benefit from the differences. So, yehi samsparshaja bhoga, this is also very important words. Dukkha yonaya evache adyantavanta kaunteya natishu ramate buddha. So ultimately, what is giving us pleasure and pain? Hmm? It depends on the sense objects, senses and the sense objects. Supposing I see through a colored glass, that tube light is covered with a red uh, plastic, so it looks red. Somewhere it's looking blue, something it's looking yellow. But I know the original light is not like that. Because it is covered like that, it is giving me that experience. So whatever pleasure we pain we have, it depends on the body we have right now. And if I change my body, which is always changing, this body itself is always changing, and different bodies have different experiences. So that is only due to the body. It is not that the soul is different. The enjoyment arising from the contact of the senses with sense objects is the source of distress. Such pleasures have a beginning and end. But whatever pleasure and pain we have in this world, it has a beginning and an end point. It's not that, for example, waves are there. There's no wave that keeps on going. Even if a tsunami waves, tidal wave comes, no matter how high it goes, again it at least comes down. So that is the nature of this world. Anything is not permanent. The experience of happiness or the experience of distress is not going to permanent. It will go on. Such pleasures have a beginning and end, so the wise does not delight in them. So you should know the limitations of this pleasure and this pain. Hmm? You- But if you hold on to something and thinking that this will give me, this is going to give me pleasure forever, or I will avoid this because it will give me pain forever, then your the misery doubles. Mm. Uh, the false sense of happiness or the false sense of distress is the more trouble. Just like in the World War, Second World War, some people were dying in the concentration camps, but some people were able to live. So why? The same experience both of them went through. But one person was detached, another person was disturbed by that. Just like some people recover from illness, it's not because of the medicine or the treatment, it is their mindset. huh? That also plays very, especially in Ayurvedic medicines. The doctor, a very good doctor, very good medicine, but the patient is not responding because he has some mental block, which is preventing him from benefiting from that. So if one is able to tolerate till the time of giving up his present body, the urges of senses arising from desire and anger, he is well situated and is happy in this world. So ultimately, what is the source of happiness? The person who is able to tolerate, uh, the tolerance level, just like your shock absorbers are there. When you're driving a vehicle, they how you are able to have a comfortable ride. If the shock absorber is able to take the shock, the ups and downs on the road, then you are having a comfortable journey. Similarly, if you learn to tolerate these ups and downs in life, how can you tolerate? With knowledge and understanding. uh, So that can come only when you are serving a superior person. So instead of trying to seek happiness from outside, you have to seek happiness from the knowledge about this soul and the super soul. And so for that, we have to perform our work, sadhana for attaining liberation. So there's a goal and we have to work for the goal. So, so how is that possible? Freedom from sin, which means you have to do what is your prescribed duty. Uh, that is, otherwise you will be affected by sin. Uh, uh, Freedom from dualities and doubts. So why duality? Just like if you're a diseased person, you're not able to see. You see two things. If some nervous disorder is there, heart problem is there, a person is seeing two images. Although it is not there, only one image is there, but because he is diseased, he sees two. So what makes you see something as good and bad or ugly and success and failure? It is some defect in your thinking, and minds being engaged within. So you have to introspect. In any situation, if you learn to introspect, just like in the concentration camp, something was going on around them, those who were contemplative, they could adjust to the situation properly. So working for everyone's welfare. So what is real welfare? Hmm? If you can understand others' true nature, that everyone is a spirit soul, and you try to help them on that level, then you can really benefit others. Unless you benefit others, you will not benefit from others. So now question is, how can you really benefit others? So we have to recognize the spiritual nature, and so this conclusion is, one can attain liberation by being free from anger and material desires. So earlier we saw in the third chapter how lust, how a person degrades, how a person falls down while contemplating the object of senses. You make your judgment based on what you see, smell, taste, and touch and hear. If that is the judgment, then it's mostly likely to be wrong. While contemplating the object of the senses, one develops lust. Lust means he makes his choices, wrong choices. And then because he made the wrong choice, he frustrated and he becomes angry. And once he becomes angry, he becomes bewildered. He becomes more confused. And once he becomes more confused, his intelligence does not work. And then he falls down. So you have to remove the source for the anger. Anger is the byproduct. So why anger is produced? Because you have a misplaced desire. So if you change the desire, then there's no need for becoming angry. So now Krishna is giving in conclusion a solution for this. Either you learn to regulate yourself. Every step you, supposing you go to a doctor, he says this much of this you should take, this much you should avoid. He's giving you a big prescription. Some people try to follow like that. So there's one process known as Ashtanga Yoga, where you regulate your breathing, your sitting, your talking, your walking, your eating, your recreation, and your thoughts in the mind. Everything, if you regulate, then you can attain peace. But rarely, many people know. Doctors have given what to eat, what not to eat, what to do, what not to do. All that we know, but still we say it's not possible. Practically not possible. Although we know this is good and this is bad, invariably we are not able to follow that prescription. So that is one option. Either you can strictly follow such rules and regulations. If you cannot, then another option is this last verse saying, Bhoktaram Yagna Tapasam Sarva Loka Maheshwaram Suhridam Sarva Bhutanam Nyatva Mam Shanti Mrichati. At least you understand that who is the supreme enjoyer. So, beneficiary of all sacrifices and austerities. So if I do austerity, for whom? I have many options for doing so many types of austerity with my body, mind, words, and senses. So for whom, whose direction should I take? And if I want to do some sacrifices, sacrifice means you are investing, supposing you are investing your energy, time, and money. In whom should I invest? If you know that at least properly, that is first step for getting peace. Second thing is supreme proprietor. Okay, I sacrificed, I did everything. Who's going to really give the benefit? Supposing I'm working for some company and your little struggle is going on. Then you will start analyzing who's the one is actually giving me the salary. Then you try to go and meet him. Then to solve the similarly, when I'm doing some austerity sacrifices, I should know who should be pleased and who is ultimately going to give the benefit. That is the supreme proprietor of all planets and demigods. See, why it is mentioned here planet? Because every place we are supposing the same thing. If I do in some other place, it will have a different effect. So any action I do depends on where I am performing it. But there is a owner for this place. So if I make friendship with that person, then my benefit is different, because I am the supreme well-wisher. So you should know who is your ultimately your well-wisher. If you work for such person, you're likely to benefit more. And that's why it says the Supreme Lord is the well-wisher, because he is accompanying a living entity through so many lifetimes. We have so many friends, so many relatives, but they are only in this lifetime. We had many lifetimes and we will have many lifetimes in the future. So who is that who is always accompanying us? That we should know. So these three things, if you know, that whom for whom should I work, and who is the one who is going to give the benefit of my work, and ultimately who is going to be my well-wisher, then Nyatma Mam Shantim Richati. One who knows this attains peace from the pangs of material miseries. Uh-huh. So this is the conclusion of this chapter. Any comments or questions? So why we say peaceful? Only the a person who's already happy can make you happy. Hmm? No matter how hard you work. Supposing your boss is never happy, then he will neither he's happy nor you're happy. But supposing you are working for someone who's always happy, even if you do some mistakes, he is graceful. Huh? I used to have a professor in thermodynamics. I was not doing well in the course, but he was by nature very happy person. So he would never fail anyone. That was his policy. I will never fail any of my students in this class. So that at least I feel grateful to him. Of course, at that time I was struggling, but because he had that graceful nature, I could come up. So similarly, this peace can be attained by only by serving a person who is always happy. Yeah, and that is said to be the definition of God. God means who is always happy. And if you serve him, even if you do mistakes, he is likely to always be beneficial, just like our parents are there. They are always our well-wishers. Even if there are so many shortcomings in us, they will be our well-wishers. So, uh, this is the fifth chapter. So feel free to ask or comment or argue on this subject. Yes. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So meditation is there in both. Ashtanga yoga also you have to do meditation. In Bhakti yoga also that's why Krishna says Manmanabhava Madbhakto. That is an instruction which is repeated twice. Manmana means always meditate on me. Hmm? But the question is, what is the object of meditation? In Ashtanga yoga, you're trying to meditate on the super soul. It's the Paramatma in the heart. But that is very difficult. Huh? Supposing you have to meditate on a person who's not in front of you. You put a picture of that person and you're trying to meditate on that person. That is possible to some extent, but not very successful. But if, let us say that person is physically in front of you, then your meditation is stronger. Hmm? So, but of course, the person may be in front of you, but your mind may be somewhere else. That is happening because you don't recognize his importance. So that's why this bhakti process will make us understand the importance of that person, so that whether he is there in front of us or not, our mind is fixed on. Just like you are in this class now, but you are always thinking about your family members. Ultimately, at the end of this class, you will go back to them only. Your priority is them, not me. Because although I am in front of you right now, your priority is the people who are with you. So similarly, this meditation, depending on what is the object of that meditation, it has different effects. So one person is meditating on the super soul, he will get some mystic powers by which he will think after some time that I don't need this person. Hmm. That is one experience. But the bhakti process, the person who is always accepting as that person as supreme, no matter how much power I will acquire from him, I'm always subordinate him. I want to serve him. Even if I get the power, I use the power to serve that superior person. That is bhakti process. The Ashtanga Yoga process, you're fixing a goal on the superior person, but your objective is to become powerful. At one point, you will think, I don't need this person. So, in sense, that is not a right meditation. Just like you are attending some classes, you go to the PhD or do something. Your objective is get the degree, but some nice students are there. No matter what, how much qualification they get afterwards, they will still respect the guide. They will think, if not for him, I would not have grown up. So there's a difference. You understand? So it's not that Paramatma is there and you can get everything from him. No, that the devotee knows that because Paramatma is an aspect of the Supreme Lord, and because of him, I am getting these powers. So I'm always should be loyal to that person. That is a better meditation. That's what Arjuna was able to do. Uh, so he was able to succeed in this battle because he always remembered Krishna. Uh, but Paramatma meditation is temporary. Till that I get the powers, I will meditate on him. Once I get the power, my meditation breaks. So in the Ashtanga Yoga process, you are regulating the breathing. So see, once you start breathing, automatically your mind and all the functions in the body become regulated. Although we don't practice it, mostly don't. Nobody practices that. But your breathing is related to the thoughts. There's a finite connection, so a fine connection which you don't see.
Right? In one of the videos that the mind is second or third, you found that much superior than intelligence, which is superior than mind. What do you think that the desire that we have is because of mind or because of soul?
Yeah, both are there. Soul is also having desire. The mind is also producing some desires. Just like this computer is there. It's also doing some intelligent things. And I'm also having my intelligence. But the intelligence in the machine has me. By itself, it doesn't have any intelligence. Similarly, material nature is also active. But it is not superior to my intelligence. But right now, I think the laptop is more efficient than me. Why this laptops, computers, everything came? Because people had that skills previously. But when the skills reduced, then they started. So similarly, when we don't recognize our real desire, cultivate desire. Soul has so many desires, but they are covered up. And we give importance to the desires which are arising in the mind. Just like actually you have some desires, but you are right now to carefully analyze all your desires are based on what others impose on you. So something like that is happening. The mind is imposing some desires on us. Just like you see a movie or industry or the advertisement, so many things are flashing. Actually, that is not required, but momentarily you see that and you think, okay, maybe yes, I need it. But you can carefully analyze, you come to the conclusion it's not required, just a hype. So something like that is happening. Currently, our original desires, they are covered up. They are silent now. Just like in a dream, so many things are happening. But because you are sleeping, you give importance to the dream. Once you wake up, then you see that dream has no value. So like that, now so many desires are coming, but they are not the desires of the soul. So that's why we are getting frustrated. Just like in the movie, you're seeing that person is doing something and enjoying, but unless you do it yourself, you're not going to get that enjoyment. You know that it is a fact. Supposing in the movie, you're seeing someone is eating and enjoying, but unless you start eating, you're not going to get the same enjoyment. So the desires is coming in the mind like that. They give a feeling that yes, I'm enjoying. But unless the soul, unless you cultivate the desires of the soul, you won't really get happiness. So that desires, what are they? If you study the scriptures, then just like how did you get a desire to come to IIT? You read about it, someone, you
saw about it, you heard about someone, then that desire came. Similarly, unless you study the scriptures or hear from a spiritual master, what are the desires of the soul and how they should be aroused and how you work for them, you are not likely to give it any importance. That somewhat answer.
And in this chapter, already you have showed us cycle, in which you told that soul has desires and the sanction of it. So, do you think that particular also in our body?
Yes.
Mind and
Yes. Yeah. See, sometimes when you were a child, we were able to do some things which are body, which now we are not able to do. Same.
Like that you say that it's the same body also, although it is not technically correct. But that same body was giving me pleasure when I was a child, but now it is not giving me pleasure. So which means there is some sanctioning authority. Just like when I was a student here 30 years back, but I never, very rarely I came to HSB 133. Maybe for my counseling, when I got my JE, for the counseling only one time I came here. Never came. But now I'm
Here so many times. So that time it is no benefit for me. This room is not much important, but now it is important for me.
One last question. You told that a person is doing a good thing. Lord Krishna says that he will say Brahma. So, is there any difference between Brahma and Brahma? Or are those the name of the same Lord?
Yeah, here Brahma means the creator. That is Brahma. He is also a living entity. Here Brahman means two things are there. One is Brahman refers to the one aspect of the Supreme Lord. Just like the sun is there, the sun planet is there, and the sunshine is there. But the sunshine is coming because the sun planet is existing. Simply, although we are not close to the sun planet, but what is within our reach is only the sunshine and the sun heat. Similarly, God has three aspects which we cannot perceive all at the same time. We can right now only perceive the Lord's energy around us. And that's why most of the scientists are trying to study the world because they don't have experience of God as a person and God is in one place. Just like the star is far away from us, sun is far away from us. I cannot go to reach to the sun and study there. But based on what heat and light is coming to me right now, I get some estimate of what the sun could be. I have not gone and measured the temperature on the sun, but I say the temperature of the sun could be 6,000 degrees Celsius. On what basis? Because my perception is here only. Similarly, when we talk about God, there are three aspects. One is I can feel His presence in the world around me. That is said to be the Brahman feature. How, for example, I am seeing so many people here. I can, by looking at the living entities, I can understand maybe God could be so many times bigger than us. Some idea I am getting. So Brahman means the energy of the Lord, and also it can be the living entities. That is one aspect. I can appreciate God by seeing the people around me. That is not perfect, but at least some idea. Then other is the Paramatma feature. Paramatma feature, I see that when I am talking, you are able to understand. Supposing I am a robo and you are a robo, obviously it's not going to be so easy to communicate between you and me. But because you are a living person, I am a living person, still there is some Paramatma who is able to make our ideas match. So just like I don't see the satellite. Satellite is all the time going around the earth. And because of the satellite only, I'm able to communicate with you over internet. But I don't see the satellite. So similarly, Paramatma is but an intelligent person knows because satellite is there only I'm able to communicate. Or the tower is there. Similarly, unless the super soul is there, one soul cannot communicate with the other. So that is one aspect of the God. Other aspect is the Bhagavan field. Just like one sun is there, you can find its reflection in many water bodies. But there's only one sun. So many people think that there are many gods. Actually, there's only one God. That God is reflected in many ways. I may say, if I see the sun in India, it looks something like this. If I go to some other country, I also see the same sun, but it may be slightly different because for various reasons. So similarly, the Paramatma experience is somewhat lower than Bhagavan experience. So what is the Bhagavan experience? I can relate with him. Supposing Prime Minister is there, all of us know that Prime Minister is so and so. We know something about the Prime Minister. But supposing you say you are a very close person, then your knowledge is much better than the other people. Similarly, Bhagavan realization means you have a complete relationship with God. You are able to relate with him personally. So these are different. The Brahman is different from Brahma. Brahma is also, I can also become Brahma. How do I become Brahma? If I follow rules and regulations, just like how one person becomes a director or whatever, you get some post. You followed the process, some process you have followed. If you also follow it, but for some reason you didn't follow the process. But if you follow, anyone can become Brahma. Everyone can become Brahma or any demigod, anyone can become. But nobody can become God. So any questions, or should we start chanting? So there are two ways of purifying. One is by hearing Bhagavad Gita, another is by chanting the Lord's name. So like last time we will chant one Mahamantra. So mind, as we said, the mind is our friend and enemy. The best way to control the mind is sound. Just like, so we were sitting here for 1.5 hours because I was talking. Let us say I sat silent and you sat silent. Then nothing, you would have left here because I was continuously talking. You were able to sit here. Similarly, the mind has to constantly hear. And what should it hear? It should hear the names of God. That is the mantra. It has been proven that if you hear the names of God, just like you, if I tell some word, if I call out some person's name, immediately you remember that person because you are able to attribute that name to that person. Similarly, the names of God are not different from God. The moment you chant them, that enters your ear and it purifies our heart. So the mind is actually in the heart. People think my mind is in my brain, but actually the mind is, that's why you see the heart symbol they show for emotions. So the way to get the heart is through the hearing process. The ultrasound is that you use ultrasound for so many benefits, but sound, even for curing cancer, sound is proven technique. So ultimately from sound only all the material elements come: earth, water, fire, fire, and ether. They are coming from sound. So this sound vibration, it helps us to regulate the mind. So we will be chanting this Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. The Mahamantra card also you can give it to all of them. Answer that box where the beads were there. There's Dinkar. There's Pankaj of Dinkar. Put the Mahamantra on the screen. So I will end the session for the 4 participants. Thank you for joining us. Next week is a very important chapter. The conclusion of the first 6 chapters. The Karma Yoga. Karma Yoga is given in this, highlighted mostly in the first 6 chapters. That will be concluded in the next chapter of 6 next Sunday. Thank you very much. So we'll have been online sessions from Monday to Friday on the same thing we discussed today. Please join us 7 to 8 with the same link, English and